About a week ago on stream, I crushed my backlog, and that meant building Plo's Micro and also 2 of the battle packs that came out in June. Because we'd already built Maul's mech, though we'd also already built Plo's Micro, because I did part those both out, but I really love the new Plo Koon minifigure. Just take a look at that brand new head mold. That looks absolutely gorgeous, but today's video is going to focus just as much on the ship, because if you've watched 2003 Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, not the Clone Wars that came later, just simply Clone Wars, you'll know that this ship first debuted as Anakin's modified Delta called the Azure Angel. Probably actually one of my favourite ships. It's an underrated ship, looks really nice, and my headcanon is now that the Azure Angel got confiscated from Anakin. Jedi can't form attachments, and I think modifying a ship is definitely forming an attachment of some kind. So that got confiscated off Anakin. It got given later to Plo Koon, and then throughout the Lego games, we now know, I think it was Force Awakens, that the Azure Angel ends up in Akbar's hands, that 3PO and R2 take on a mission. Honestly, I'm as confused as you, but the easy way to modify Plo's Delta here to make it look like the Azure Angel is to pop off the turrets on either side. You can see what I've done is I've swapped that 1x2 slope around so that we can then attach it to the very edge of the wing right there. Rather than it being on the 2 studs next door, we've attached it on the end to act as those turrets, those cannons that stick out on the wing, and also use that 1x2 slope to make it feel like it's sticking out a bit further. This is still a microfighter, so we wouldn't have any big fins on there. At best, Lego would probably give us like a 1x1 bracket and then a chi slope on the end, but I really think that's not necessary. And then at the front, where Plo originally had his single lightsaber, I've replaced the 1x2 clip with a 1x1 clip. I've got a second lightsaber there to act as the engines out the front, and we now have our microfighter of the Azure Angel. I'm excited for this one. We spoke about this on, I think it was the last stream, and we seem to agree that dual molded legs is better than printed legs. I think this is another scenario. Here we have our Plo Koon minifigure with dual molded legs. I wouldn't mind having dual molded legs, maybe even print on the dual molded legs. People are saying, where's the cape? Actually, Plo Koon needs a cape. Oh, this minifigure's looking good. Look at that. Plo Koon with a cape. And right now, Plo Koon with a cape doesn't fit in the microfighter. Because the cape, actually, Plo Koon with the lightsaber doesn't fit in the microfighter. It sticks out ever so slightly. That's not a problem. He's just going to fly backwards over the Delta. Kind of matches with how fast they're going, but also covers the back bit there. So that's why this Plo minifigure doesn't include a cape. If we remove these 2 white pieces, which are pieces that I'm still yet to remove, but planning on stealing from the Slave 1, I'm going to use a light bluish grey 1x2, replace both of those round pieces with that 1x2, and there you go. It's still not enough space for the cape, really, but it fits a lot better than it did before, and I'd argue it fits as well as any capes ever have in a Lego set. It would seem we have the wrong pilot, because this Plo Koon minifigure is actually from the Clone Wars. That's right, not even from Revenge of the Sith. So why they changed the Arc 170 to be Revenge of the Sith and didn't give us a new microfighter, or at least give us Plo's Revenge of the Sith droid in the Lego Star Wars Advent instead of another Ahsoka droid, we will never know, but we can make some modifications. And of course, the first modification would be to create a custom Revenge of the Sith droid for Plo Koon. Look at those dual coloured legs. They look so good. I've also created some decals for this because it is a custom 3D printed torso. We'll get into what's special about it in just a second, but the decals will look very similar to R2-D2's torso, front and back. Of course, we have to have some back printing. That's like a standard for droids now. But they're very slightly different. I won't get into the difference. Of course, they're accurate to the prop they made for this droid in Revenge of the Sith that we barely even see. But if you pay very close attention or pause the video, you'll probably be able to spot a few differences both front and back. You also got a little glimpse at the mechanism that makes this torso and legs special compared to your regular droid. And it's the fact that any astromech head, I've used R2 because whilst the droid in Revenge of the Sith does look to have a dark blue dome with silver highlights, I think LEGO might try and get away with using the R2-D2 head. It looks good enough. The legs are definitely what sets this apart. But you can spin the R2 head, the astromech head, 360. Look at that. You can have it pointing absolutely anywhere, which is not only great for mock building, but I think LEGO should consider doing this to the droid body. It's not used too many times, and when it is, there's usually at the very least, a 2x2 tile on top, connecting it to the rest of the ship. So this would work perfectly, and this is also the astromech for Plo Koon. Take a look at the back as well, so that you can try and find what is different to the regular astromech. This is the astromech that we would have got in the microfighter if it was for Revenge of the Sith, but honestly, I don't see LEGO changing that anytime soon. This droid body went through a few different iterations. First off, we have this one here, which has some sort of axle going all the way through with the stud on the end, and that got met with a bit too much friction. So then I decided, what if we carved out a hole big enough, like I've done with my minifigure displays, to fit a stud in there. There'd be little to no friction so that the head could spin, but then we run into some issues with the legs because it actually blocks the Technic pins from going in. So that would mean we'd have to create this droid body here, which is a bit too chunky, and the torso sticks up a bit too much past the legs for my liking. And initially I'd redesigned the legs as well. So if we couldn't get the Technic beams in there, what if we got some studs sticking out of each of the sides? And I've went with two different variations because the longer ones would have better friction. They'd hold on the legs better, but the shorter ones would mean I wouldn't have to modify the Lego legs too much, because the shorter ones would work with the leg if there was just basically that stud hole. That stud hole that's on the outside of the legs would just have to be replicated the other side. I'll show you that in a second. And the longer ones would have to go all the way through. However, this did pose some really interesting things, because if I did have the hole in the stud, as I do here, we could get some clips in, especially thinking of Chopper and R2 with their jetpacks. We could get some accessories on the legs, like some fire, like some rockets, like some jetpacks, I guess, for these astromechs that would work really nicely. But ultimately, I decided it'd be better if we just stuck to modifying the torso and left the two legs alone. But if you prefer Lego elements and want a body and legs for your astromech, check out my website, link in the description, because I'm selling a few with back printing as well. Check that out, custom designed by myself, and a fine addition to your collection. Since recording all of this, I've edited a short and I just realized how ill I sound, so I apologize for that. But now we've got the astromechs out of the way, both for Revenge of the Sith and for Clone Wars, whichever you prefer. It'd be nice to have the choice if Lego released two sets, because chances are most of us would pick up two of these so that we got either droid. And you know, having a second Plo Koon head would be awesome, wouldn't it? But also, one of these Plo Koons could then come with a dual molded arm, so we get the nice white clone armor that a lot of Jedi donned for the Clone Wars. And because once again Lego don't seem to make this element, I've gone ahead and 3D printed my own Lego compatible arms. I don't know what's gone wrong with these arms, but they seem to be sticking out much more than the Lego ones, and I don't know why, but I'm finding this highly amusing. And also, no dual molded legs, so you know we've got decals for those too. We've spoken about this before on stream quite a few times now, and we've all sort of come to this conclusion that the dual molded legs would be better than printing, even printing on like the side of the legs. I think dual molded legs are definitely the future of Lego. Same with arms. I'd take dual molded arms over printed arms, especially for characters like Ahsoka. I just think it looks so much better and keeps to that Lego design. Simplicity, but still giving us that extra bit of detail. So maybe Lego will make these arms at some point in the near future, but it does suck that they haven't done that already. So I guess in the meantime, we'll just have to take what we are given and work with that. But let me know your thoughts on the matter in the comments. I'm also aware that Lego have already made an Azure Angel Lego set, and whilst I won't be building the set, I really like the minifigures in it. So my last few decals are dedicated to those. If there is a minifigure that either LEGO haven't made or LEGO have made and has a massive price tag, we have been looking at Revan and Cloud City Boba Fett over on Shorts, going for up to 7,000 euros, which is nuts for Boba, considering the set is only worth like a third of the price. But if there is a minifigure that is too expensive, out of your price range, or you know, maybe it's just the fact you don't want to pick it up, because I do customize a lot of my minifigures, and could you imagine picking up a few of those Cloud City Boba Fett's for seven grand, right? And then pulling an arm off, cracking it just because I want to switch it up for a mock. So I like to think that it's on your behalf I'm not picking up these minifigures, but I'm also saving quite a bit of cash by not doing so. I definitely recommend decals. Find what spare minifigure parts you have. I've been collecting Lego for, well, I haven't been collecting Lego for that long, but I used to get bought Lego sets. So I have a bunch of spare city minifigures, and usually secondhand stores, you can pick figures up for pretty cheap. So I like to stockpile minifigure parts, and if you have enough like I do, you'll probably be able to make most of the minifigures you want. In the original set, Lego gave us 3 minifigures, and I don't have the red astromech, but I do have a red astromech head, slightly different. But this was from a Tatooine battle pack with some Jawas, Tuscans. Really fun set to build, so I will be decaling the torso and getting some back printing. And you might remember the old Anakin's Eater gave us a torso that was exactly the same as the Mustafar Duel. So I didn't need 2 Anakins. I used my other one to create an Attack of the Clones custom with some lighter arms, a bit like Plo Koon, with that dark chest and the lighter arms. Didn't recognise the similarities between those. Plo now having some white parts on his arms, and the hairpiece from that set as well. I think this is a Luke head. I want to say this is a spare Farm Boy Luke head as well, but that works for our Anakin. And for Asajj, we have found the perfect combination. Originally, it was a printed torso, but these are all monochrome elements in the same colours as the original set. So when we apply the decals, it almost looks like we've got the actual minifigure here. I think the head decal is always the easiest to tell. And if you look closely at the torso, you'll notice we have the same white line where the printings had a little space at the bottom, which honestly, I didn't mean to replicate, but seeing these 2 figures side by side, I think that's pretty cool. And I also printed off a spare decal if I preferred the face to the Clone Wars one, and I definitely do. So I will be applying this on top of the Asajj Clone Wars face. However, if you are adding a decal to a piece that already has some printing, do be careful that some of the darker colours will be showing through. Come to think of it, I don't really know why I didn't just stick the front decal on this, because the red would have covered the dark blue. Maybe that would have worked well enough, but that's going to be on the back anyway. The printing does camouflage that, and here is the red astromech. So now we have our 3 minifigures here. Let's add Anakin to the Azure Angel, and I guess this would be the perfect microfighter. You know what this video is beginning to feel like? This video is beginning to feel like, what if a non-licensed theme had a Lego microfighter? And what I mean by that is Marvel Mechs recently have had a hero and a villain to battle out, basically a mech battle pack. And this set would come with Anakin, a droid. We know Lego don't include droids as minifigures, so that one doesn't count. And then someone to battle against. I think this would make microfighters so much more worth the money than they are already. Captain Rex in the Y-Wing, Plo Koon in the Delta. Who's next? If we don't get a hot tub microfighter next year with that hot tub trooper from the UCS Death Star, I don't know what they're going to give us. It's probably going to be like Coleman Trebor, Kit Fisto, or just someone else that needs a really nice updated head mold. And if we were to get 3 minifigures in this microfighter, I don't see why they couldn't give Plo Koon both his droids. Just before I wrap up this video, I would like to show you the one other change I've made to this microfighter, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't inspired by my minifigure scale model. By the way, instructions for this are linked in the description on my shop, so check it out if you want to build it. It goes really well with my Kenobi model. Maybe I'll even make a few more in the future. For me, the initial microfighter wings stuck out a little too much. I quite like the piece usage here. use a lot of these on the underside of the wing, but swapping it out for tiles makes it seem so much simpler, so much more detailed as well, so much more flush with the model. The wings don't stand out as much, and we've just swapped out these 3 parts for 3 tiles, of which 2 were already used at the front, and after only getting one side of these in the Ahsoka Delta. That's right, Lego, I will never forgive you for only giving us one side in the Ahsoka Eta. That stops it from being a perfect 100 out of 100. It's a 99 out of 100. Still an awesome build. You should build it if you haven't already. Great minifigures as well. Oh, that set was just overall 10 out of 10, but I'm gonna have to dock it that 0.1 for the lack of symmetry. And we did switch up these tiles live when building this, so check out the stream in the description. Again, sorry for the nasally sounding voiceovers, and may the bricks be with you always.